All right, so hi everyone. Welcome to our Q&A session. So today we're just going to be answering some of your questions and also talking a little bit more about the application process and how you can get ready to dive deep into the pathway hubs. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. All right. So if you can see my screen right now, if you're coming from Paua Unified, you'll probably have this either on your Canvas or through an email. But if you're coming from RB, this is what it looks like. You can go ahead and click this the link that Coach Jamal sent out from the Bronco Center, and I think it's actually an announcement. But he sent out a PDF that obviously, depending on your school, this may be different. But if you go to the announcements for RB, at least, you can see the application, and there's a PDF down here. And all you need to do is submit this PDF. I think the application deadline was yesterday, but we have extended it. So if you need to do anything and submit it still, the deadline is now Monday. So just read over, submit it. Again, we don't really expect any experience beforehand, but anything that you have is great. But the whole point of STEM is that you do get experience, so we're not necessarily going to be requiring any experience from the beginning. All right, so now hopefully you're able to submit that application to whoever your a coordinator is, whether that be Coach Schmo at RB or the other CTE leads throughout the district. But then your next step after you submit that application is to go to stemway.com. When you first get in, you'll be asked to create a new account. And so at this right corner, you should see a button that says sign up. You'll click that, put in all of your information, and you'll be able to create an account after following through all those steps. It's pretty self-explanatory. Hopefully, I think all of you have created that already, considering that you were on our email list. But the next step would be directly going into the pathway hubs. So this little category right here, and getting started. This is really the first step in the process. The pathway hubs are a training session so that you'll gain all the hard skills and all the technical skills necessary to succeed when we go on into the actual internship. And so these are mandatory, so everybody needs to complete them, but we don't really have a singular sign-up sheet that you need to do. All you need to go on to be considered for an internship is to choose one pathway hub. We do have some links on our YouTube channel with all the different videos from Saturday about all the internships. And so you can click that, you can click one of these videos, watch them, and be able to come to a decision as to which pathway you want to do the internship in or complete the pathway hub in. And so after you've come to that decision, again, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different pathways that you can choose from. Let's just say I choose machine learning. You'll then directly go into that pathway hub that you've chosen and go ahead to that introductory instructions module. It'll be there for each pathway and read through all the steps. So in this case, for this pathway hub, you're going to need to create an account on STEMway, join this group, and complete these modules. And so the modules for our pathway hubs are essentially lessons and a kind of category in a training. And so if I go overhead and I go to one of our first module for machine learning, you can see that Sarah, who's our mentor change lead, asks you to do a couple of steps, and at the very end, she asks you to do a self-assessment. And so these self-assessments are how we're going to be able to track whether you did the internships or not. We don't have a singular form that you have to check in and just say, okay, I'm planning on doing this internship. If you submit the self-assessments for that internship, then we know that you're doing it. And so go ahead, sign up for the group, follow your Pathway Hub lead's instructions, and be sure to complete these self-assessments because, again, this is how we're going to be tracking you and making sure that you're progressing. And so there are going to be 5 modules. The Pathway Hubs are happening as we speak, and so not all 5 are on there, but as we progress, more and more modules will be added up, so I suggest that you get started now so to be able to spread that out better. But after you complete these 5 modules, then you'll be done with your training and you'll be able to go ahead and do the internships in the spring and the summer, whenever you choose. Does anybody have any questions about that? Right, assuming that enough people will be applying for the PhD application, how many will be accepted? That's a great question. So far, what we've been thinking right now is that all students who are accepted through the PUSD application and complete the Pathway Hub will be considered, and I think the majority will be accepted. The reason that we're so competitive is mainly because these Pathway Hubs are pretty hard, and so the students who are able to complete them will not, already be pretty good and be able to be accepted. And so if you complete the Pathway Hub, I wouldn't worry too much about it. There's a very high chance that you will be accepted. But again, most students do not complete the Pathway Hub, and so being able to do that is, it's pretty challenging, but I think everyone should be able to do it. Any other questions? And you can unmute as well. That's fine. Are there deadlines for completing the Pathway Hubs? Yes, there are. I believe that all the deadlines are towards the end of December, because that's when we'll be considering you for the internships. And so whenever that fifth module comes out, or whenever the last module for that Pathway Hub comes out, I'm assuming we'll give you about a week or two. And then after that, that's the deadline, and we won't be considering anyone else. The next.
Shreya, I'd just like to add to that.
Sure.
You can definitely do it at your pace and do it later after all the modules come out. But I'm assuming all of you are new to this. It is the best to go along with the modules. So right now, the level 1 module 1 has just started. And if you take part in that, what Sarah is going to do at the end of every module is to hold a meeting where she'll help you do that module. Like whatever, you need to try it first. So everything in STEMaway is first you try and then we help. So if you do it along with the pace of the rest of the students, you will get a chance to talk to Sarah directly and participate in those meetings. So this meeting that you're seeing on the 21st is the first meeting, and it's got that invite for that meeting will only go to the people who have done the self-assessment for module 1. So it doesn't mean that we are not going to consider self-assessments that you have done later. But again, it is not easy to do everything on your own. If you have some external help, absolutely fine. But if you want help from the STEMaway mentors, it's best to go along with the modules. Machine learning is the only one that we have kind of already started in the sense 21st is tomorrow. The rest of the pathways begin next week. So the first wrap-up meeting is on the 28th. However, if you're very interested in this, just put in a self-assessment which says why you're interested, and a little bit. We're not expecting that self-assessment to be like a something that we're grading you on. We just want to make sure that the people who come to those meetings, we want to keep it small, those meetings, rather than having 30 people attend. So we just want to make sure that you have at least read through that, whatever Sarah has in there, and you have kind of digested what the contents are. We can show you some of the self-assessments that have been written, just so that you get an idea of it. But this is an addition to the question of what is the deadline for the modules. Just again, to summarize, you can do it at your own pace, but it would be better to go along at the pace that Sarah is setting up, which you can see now she has already put in module 2, and 2 weeks from now is when she's going to set up the wrap-up meeting for module 2.
Yep, definitely. So Shreya is asking, how do we know when we have to complete each lesson? I know that some people have already finished the first module for ML in October. And so just like Deblina said, you can go at your own pace. So just be sure to have all the lessons completed by the end of the Pathway Hubs. That's the only real deadline that we have. But again, it's based on whichever pathway you have. I'm not sure if we have a set time period between modules, but whenever your Pathway Hub lead comes out with a new module, be sure, if you want to follow the schedule, to have that done by that time.
Yeah, and we didn't really finish the first module in October. The first module, well, people did start, but tomorrow is the finish line for the first module. So you're not late. Well, a little late for module 1, but the module 1 is kind of an intro. It's not really asking you to do a task. So it's more to just go over several webinars and all. So if you're interested in machine learning, jump right in and follow along with Sarah.
Yep. And then I got one more question. Is the December deadline the same for the summer internship Yes, it is. All of our pathway hubs are running at the exact same time. The reason we have both the options is just because we have a limited number of spots for spring, and summer we have like an extensive number of spots. So it has nothing to do with when you're getting the training, but has more to do with when you're actually getting the internship. One more question was, do we get to choose which session we want to take part in? Like if I wanted to attend it in spring or fall, do I have control over it? Yes, you do. We do look into your preferences, but again, we have some sessions like spring and fall that are pretty competitive and have like a smaller number of spots. And so if you wanted to do those, we might be capacity constrained. But for summer, generally, like I expect that anyone who applies to summer or wants to do summer will be able to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like summer is when, especially since you're high schoolers, the number of spots for high schoolers is limited to begin with. So spring, fall may not be possible to accommodate high schoolers, but we do want high school students to be part of the program, and I would recommend trying for your best chances to try for summer.
Will the cloud computing pathway hub be putting up a module? Yes, they will. I'm not sure if all of our pathways hubs are going at the same the same rate. So some of the pathways may not be starting yet. They might be starting in a week. So just keep that in mind. You might not see modules up yet. Where do we apply for a specific internship like the spring or summer internship? After you complete the pathway hub, we'll have a list of everyone who has, and then we'll be sending out more information about the application process. But everyone needs to complete the pathway hub to be able to apply. Any other questions?
So just to expand on what we mean by completing a pathway hub, it's you go for every module that has been put there, you have a self-assessment where you've written what you have done in that particular module, what is the training that you have got out of it.
And then one person is asking, how do we submit the self-assessment? And so that is a pretty simple process. You can go directly to, they'll probably, depending on your pathway hub, they'll have a message up like this, self-assessment preparation. You can click directly on it. And if you scroll to the top, there will be some like tasks, and it'll tell you a little bit more about how to submit the self-assessment. So there should be a location to say.
Shreyash, you might have to join the group in order to show this. It may not, you're probably not seeing the category because you're not part of the group. Can you just go to the group and join? People can then see how to join as well.
Sure. Summary.com/G, by the way, is our groups tab, and you'll be able to see all the different groups that you can join. So I'll join the machine learning pathway. Okay.
So you'll notice now, like the self-assessments category is now visible. And if you see the lock next to it, it shows that it's not visible to public. So the reason we have done that is we want you to be super comfortable. Don't worry about what you're putting in the self-assessment. Writing that is also a skill that we're teaching you. But only the people who are in the pathway hubs have access to that self-assessment. Go into that particular category, and you will be able to put in your self-assessments over there.
And like Devalina just said, be sure to have signed up for one of those groups like I just did right now. And or otherwise you won't be able to get this. And so you can just create a new topic like this, type in, whatever your pathway is. So it could be machine learning. And be sure to talk about which level you are, whether you're in level 1 or level 2, and then module 1 or whichever number of the module you're doing, and then your name. So I could do something like this. And then depending on the instructions, the self-assessments may vary. Your team lead might be asking something different depending on your pathway. So just follow their instructions to talk about, to fill in the content for the self-assessment. But most things should be the same. We are really looking for mainly what you've learned, both hard and soft skills, and what you've been doing. And so there might be a little bit differences here or there, but for the most part, that is what we're looking for in the self-assessments. And again, like Devalina mentioned, we're not grading these. You don't have a set number of points, and we're not going to give you an A. It is completely just up to making sure that you know this information that you've been given so that you'll be able to complete the internship properly. Are there any other questions?
Can we do a quick poll to see which pathways the current students are interested in? I'm assuming people who have joined this meeting are the ones who are interested and will make it through the pathway hubs. Just interested to know which pathways you guys are interested in.
And you can go ahead and put that in the chat. I'll pull up a list too, so you guys can see. Machine learning or full stack, machine learning, bioinformatics.
Okay. Interesting. No UX. That's where we got our maximum high school students last time. But since you've given this information, let me tell you a little bit about the starting points of the modules that will help you get started since you're coming in slightly late. Let's talk full stack. That's the one, 28th is the first one. In full stack, what we are doing is we are going to be working with an open source code called Discourse. The STEMaway is an open source forum code, and STEMaway itself is built on that. The first step in full stack is to install Discourse on your machines, and that is what it's going to be about. I know that Ariane, you said you're interested in either machine learning or full stack. You're welcome to try both. In your initial application, do put one of the pathways, but depending on your self-assessments, if you decide to go full stack instead of machine learning or the other way around, if you have your self-assessments, you are allowed to make a change. So what you need to do in full stack is really watch that first video where Vijay goes into details about how to do that initial Discourse installation. Because if you do run into problems, which is possible, full stack is one of the ones where the first task itself is kind of the most challenging one, which is installing Discourse. Then that meeting on 28th is where you can get a lot of help in getting the Discourse up on your machine. Without that, the rest of it is not going to be possible. So full stack, I really recommend if anyone interested in full stack, do try to attend the meeting on 28th and resolve your any issue you have with some online help, face-to-face help. If you have any issue, you can always go to the forum and reply to any of these posts that you see right in front of you. So let's say in level 1, module 1, there is you have an issue with some specific task you said, all you have to do is reply to that post, and the mentors are continuously monitoring this. So you'll get to see, get help directly over here. All right. And then let's talk about bioinformatics. The bioinformatics webinar, the first kickoff meeting was again a great overview one where Anya, who is the mentor for that, she went over the overall project. You also heard it in the webinar where you, the high school showcase, we had 2 students, Disha and Dan, who talked about the entire project. With that, you should have a very good idea about what is going to happen in the project. Does not mean that you're prepared as yet, because it is very challenging material. You do need to have some preparation in order to participate in the final internship. But what is happening again, bioinformatics also, the first meeting is on the 28th. And what is going to happen there is if you're new to R, the basic steps, how do you get R Studio up? How do you do like just the very initial steps in order to tackle the tasks that will be coming is 28th is the day when you meet with Anya and ask her all those questions. Those meetings are exactly going to be like this meeting. You can keep your video on, you can keep your audio on. They're not going to be webinars. They're going to be meetings where if there are if the number of people in a particular pathway exceeds 15, we are going to have more than one meeting. We're not going to have more than 15 people in any one meeting. So these are the ones where you look at the task, you look at any of this module description, the task, you try it out, you ask your questions on the forum, and then you come to the meeting, and then based on where you got stuck or any other question that you have. These are the mentors who will help you answer those questions. All right, so we did full stack, bioinformatics. The other one, okay, machine learning looks like is the three of you. Machine learning is the one which kind of got started a little earlier than the others. So the next meeting is tomorrow, which I know may be a bit much for you. If you do want to attend that meeting, just put in, I'll let Sarah know that some of you came in late. Still put in your self-assessment because she's going to be sending out that invite only to people who have put self-assessments. Just write over there your school district, and I'll let Sarah know that the people who have come in through a little late can still attend the meeting if you're available to attend the meeting. Put in a little bit more than just your school district. Just take a look at some of the webinars out there and give some information to Sarah as to what, why you're interested, just so that she knows you before that meeting starts. Full stack is going to be 2 main languages, depending on whether it is a theme or a plugin. The theme is JavaScript and the plugin is Ruby on Rails. The plugin is much more complex because it's a backend component, but what Bijay will be doing is going gradually through it. So he will start teaching you guys Ruby on Rails, but on the discourse side, he will start implementing first on the front end. So you will start with the JavaScript. The particular framework they use is Ember. I was answering Aryan's question on what languages and full stack. Any other pathway specific question? Otherwise, I'll hand it back to Shreyas to go over. Okay, so we did just go for level 1. I'm answering the question as to which level. Level 2 is not for high schoolers. It's only 0 and 1, but we don't have enough people for 0. So we are planning to just run the 1. And if you are stuck, if you need any extra help, what Sarah will do is just have some additional meetings for people who more fall under level 0 rather than level 1. But for now, just follow along with level 1. Level 2 and 3 will be posted shortly, but those are not open to high schoolers at this point.
Do we have any other questions about pathways or just general questions? So the module meetings are typically either once a month or once every couple of weeks. It does depend on the pathway that you choose. So again, it really does depend. Your pathway mentor is the one who really gets to choose when the meetings are. And so we're never really sure. It differs a lot between pathways. All right, I can go ahead and show where to post the self-assessments again. So the first step is, of course, to go to stemway.com/G. That is our groups menu. You'll go ahead and decide to join a group. So for example, I want to join the cloud computing pathway. I click join there. Now I'm a member. It'll show up like this. Then I can go back to our homepage, click pathway hubs, and this new topic called self-assessments with a lock right next to it will pop up. And so all you need to do is just click on that and then create a new topic, like right here. And again, this is recorded, so you can watch this later. Click that new topic and then follow the same naming convention. Put your name in and then change this up as you know, depending on your situation. So do we only finish modules for level 1? It really does depend. You're going to need to complete all 5 modules or however many there are by the end of the pathway hubs. But as for right now, you only need to complete the level 1 module, like as we speak. And for many pathways, there may not even be a level 1 module up right now. Just the only thing you need to keep in mind is that just try to keep on on the same path as your mentor is putting out. So if a mentor puts out level 1, work on level 1. If they're putting out level 2, work on level 2, and keep on going that way.
Sorry, just Shreya, I think the question is between modules and levels. So high schoolers are only doing level 1. All the modules for level 1.
Got it. Yeah, that's right there. But yeah, keep on track as well. So can we give an overview of UX like for the other pathways? I believe we already did have an overview of UX inside of the showcase, and so that is on the YouTube on our YouTube channel. But I'm not sure if the video is out yet. We might be still editing it.
Yeah, and I can just give you a quick overview now if there's someone interested in UX. What happens in UX is there are there's two parts to UX. There's UX research and UX design. So UX research is when you actually pick a project and you're getting all there are even simple things like user interviews. There are lots of principles involved, how to identify stakeholders, how to create an empathy map, how to do the interviews. So that's the research part of it that will be there in the internship. And then in the design part is when you're actually using design tools like Balsamiq, Figma. There are quite a few different UX tools which you use to create prototypes. And then again, you iterate and do your interviews. Now, the UX pathways hub is the one which is going to be slightly different from the other pathways. In all of these that we talked about, machine learning, bioinformatics, and FullStack, you're going to be doing the same modules that you'll do in the internship. The difference is over here, you're just learning the basics for each module. In the internship, you're really going to run with it. You're going to explore different aspects. You're going to come up with new ideas. Your lead is going to suggest things. So that is where all the action happens. This is just the preparation. In UX, we are not going to go through such a formal training where you're going through every module that you'll be doing in your actual internship. Instead, our UX mentor is going to keep posting topics on different interesting topics on different aspects of UX, and you can follow along over there.
Yep. And if I were just to, summarize UX and UI design in one word, like one sentence, it would just be creating, knowing your user. And so it would be just making things that a potential user would want to use. And so there's a research part of it, which is learning what they would like, how they like it, and that sort of thing. And then there's also design. So basing, actually creating things based off of that. Do we have any other questions?
Shesh, do you want to go through one of the self-assessments just to show them what they need to put into the self-assessment?
Sure.
I don't think these ones will tell them a lot. Maybe pick up from your own self-assessment or somebody else's from the virtual internship session. So the thing about the self-assessment, while Shreyas is bringing it up, in STEMaway, we want to give you the learning that you need to do a particular pathway, but we also want to show you it's all about how to really succeed in your careers. And so when you do a work, the showcasing of the work is equally important. So it's only if you're able to showcase yourself powerfully is that somebody will then take an interest in what is the actual work you have done. And in industry, the way it works is when it comes time for reviews where you get the next step in your career, you typically most companies have this concept of a self-assessment. So you write down what you have done, your peers give review, your managers give review, and then a decision is taken. So that's one of the things we want to do in STEMaway is give you a glimpse into that process and really teach you how to do self-assessments. And with the self-assessment, you're kind of tracking your progress. You're letting us know what you're doing, but it is also for your own tracking, which is people in the summer session found it incredibly useful. You kind of track what you did in the last week and what you're planning to do in the next week. And the other thing is that for the pathway hubs, your self-assessments will always remain logged. But in the virtual internships, after you've finished, when you get a certificate, there's a direct link from the certificate to your self-assessments. So that is the way people can really get an in-depth view of what you did in the internships. So this is the certificate you'll get at the end of your internship, which you can put on your resume, share on LinkedIn. But if you notice, it has a link to your self-assessment. And the reason why that is extremely important is for a senior professional like me, it's very easy for me to say what I've done. People at my level know exactly, if in just 3 words, I can tell them what is my impact on the industry. But for students, it's extremely difficult. And so that's one of the issues in student recruiting that we are attacking, you guys are high schoolers, but very soon you will be in college. And even though your entry level job is somewhat far off, your internships are going to start happening. So this is a way for companies to get a view into what you have achieved in those internships. So in the Pathway Hub, you're really just practicing, but in the internship, these self-assessments will be linked to your certificates. So all the self-assessments have a particular format. Shresh, if you can just come back to the self-assessment that you had. It starts with an overview where one of the things you have to really learn is how to be concise. So you want to brag about your achievements. Yes, you do want to brag in that sense. You need to put it in very powerful words, but you have to be concise. That's extremely important. So overview, achievement highlights, this is the concise one. And then in the task completed is when you can go into a great amount of detail. If you look at this, these are open categories. You can take a look at other self-assessments. Some of the ones, especially in bioinformatics, I would say it's really well done. There are really good ones in FullStack and UX as well. Machine learning was the one Pathway Hub which I would say didn't do the greatest work in self-assessments, but we have left it open and people are coming back to it. So this is another way if you want to kind of see what happened week to week. If you go through one of these self-assessments, you will see a very detailed thing about what was happening in the internships. Actually, don't go for the leads. I just realized that the leads, because they were really busy, they haven't put in week by week. I give them personal recommendations. But if you look at somebody else, no, Ashlisha is a lead too. But okay, looks like she did have a lot of detail though. So you see, it's like really good reading. If you just look at one of these, you'll get a very good idea about them. If you look at the self-assessment of any of the participants, it goes almost week by week. Sometimes, depending upon the amount of load, we also let them do every 2 weeks. These are the ways you can see what was happening in the different pathways. So it's very important not just to learn the new things, but also you should learn how to project yourself, how to project your different work. And these are the ways that a self-assessment is the way that you're going to be doing it. So again, Pathway Hub is the place where you learn stuff and you also start practicing learning your self-assessments. It has to be in your voice. Your authenticity is very important, but there are certain things like, as I was saying, you need to start in a concise way with your achievements and then move on to the details. So those kind of formattings are the things that will really help you as you go forward in your careers.
Yep, and this is actually a really good example of a good participants self-assessment. So she's broken it down week by week, the first week, second week, third week, fourth week, and so on. And also at the very end, she gave like a quick presentation about the work that she did. And so if I were an employer looking at her self-assessment right now, I would be able to read it, understand exactly what she's done. And then you also get like this nice visuals that can tell you, okay, this is like a higher, more in-depth understanding of what she's done. So does anyone have any questions about that or anything else in general? No? All right. I know you guys probably have class in a couple of minutes, so if no one has any other questions, we're pretty much good.
All right. Welcome to STEM Away. Hope to see you guys on the Pathway Hubs.
Yeah.
Thanks, Shreya.
No problem.